Hey, and welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Ham Radio Dude. Thanks for checking out the channel. Recently, well, actually for a while now, I've been working on Morse Code. I want to get on the CW band, or the CW modes of the band. And originally, the way I kind of showed it was to memorize CW by memorizing little patterns like Coca-Cola for C or something like that. Well, that didn't really work out. As suggested in the comments, many people said, hey, that's not going to work out. And they were right, it did not. So I actually got something I wanted to share with you today while I'm in between videos, and that is the Morserino right here, this little guy. And what this is this is a CW trainer, if you will. So today let's talk about the Morserino, all its features, or some of the features that it has to offer. And finally, I'm going to show you some of the progress I'm making learning Morse code with the Morserino and how I'm kind of doing things. And this is the part of the video where I ask if you like my content, please consider subscribing. It really does help me in the YouTube algorithm.
Your source for amateur radio news, reviews, and tech overviews. This is Ham Radio Dude.
To get started, if I come on over here to the Morserino website where you could actually purchase a Morserino 32 specifically is what we're talking about today, you're going to see a couple things. And the first thing I do want to mention here is the time from the order to shipment is currently between 3 and 10 days, so expect a little bit of a delay. But actually, the thing I really want to kind of mention is what this is, and this is a kit build. So you actually are going to have to put together this Morserino. Now, I purchased mine used, so it was already put together. However, what's going to happen is you're going to get this Morserino 32 kit. It's going to be €85, which is somewhere around $103 at the time of recording. And in here, basically, you can buy one kit. There is also options to purchase more than one kit as well. But what do you get for the 103 USD? Now, admittedly, a lot of these options I haven't used yet because I'm just kind of getting started with this thing, but you do get an ESP32 microcontroller with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and LoRa. Additionally, you get an OLED display, which is 128 by 64 pixels. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. It says that you get one status line with 3 lines of text screen with 15 lines per buffer, so you can scroll back. Capacitive touch paddles. And actually, I do want to mention too, you do have the option to be able to plug in your own external keyer, which I'll go ahead and I'll show here later. Now, I will also say that these little paddles here, they sometimes have a tendency to kind of pop out. So you kind of had to be careful with those. See, that one just kind of came out too while I was trying to adjust it. However, and that one just came out again. So those are kind of sensitive. I would prefer to use my keyer, but currently my keyer is set up for a different input, and I just haven't had the time to change it to the right keyer style or the right input style. So with that, you also get a user interface through one rotary encoder, and I'll show you how that works in just a few moments. Additionally, it says connections for the transceiver, audio in, and line out for things like ICW. A headphone out, which is a very useful tool, and I'll show you why in just a few moments. Capacitive touch paddles, which we talked about already. And then the external paddle or straight key, which I've kind of talked about. There is a power supply which uses a LiPo battery. 600 to 1200 milliamp hours is recommended. And mine did come with a LiPo battery. I'll discuss that here in just a few. Additionally, USB power as an external power supply or for charging. Deep sleep function. So this thing turns off automatically after a certain time frame if you haven't used it. Or at least it goes into sleep mode. And it still does take battery drain at that point. And then there's a switch to cut off the battery completely so the battery doesn't get drained while you're using this thing, or while you're not using this thing, rather. And then there is a firmware to this. So constantly on GitHub, you'll see firmware updates, new features added, different things like pitch control and everything that are added. And we can go through this list here, but I'll post a link below and you could actually review all the different things in the firmware that can be changed. One of the key features that I'm using this for is the Koch method or the Koch method. And what that is it's a way of learning CW, which I'm also going to show you here in just a few moments. And then I also use the echo feature to echo things back to me so I can listen and say, I think that was an R. You could actually, it's kind of like a game, and every level you go up, well, let me just show you. Okay, so here it is, the Morserino 32 on the board. And again, I did not put this together. However, I just wanted to go over just a couple things about this. And I think I'm going to start at the microcontroller. So here's your microcontroller with your OLED. And you also do have your little antenna, which will work for, I guess, as I understand, LoRa and Wi-Fi. Now, I haven't played with this yet, so I don't know too much about that, but maybe in the future, as I progress, we'll take a look at how that works. You have a couple control knobs, which I'll show you here in a minute. You do have those keyers that I was telling you about, and they do remove. I recommend that if you are traveling with this thing, maybe you remove them and put them in a little case or or secure them somehow so they don't get lost. Or you could always buy a couple extra just in case they do get lost. But the paddles actually are conductive on both sides, meaning it doesn't really matter which side the paddle goes on, because regardless, there's going to be conductivity, or it's going to be conductive. But what I will say is, you could also, in the options, and I'll show you in just a moment, you could actually change which side is long and which side is short on the paddles. So I have mine set up right now where this is long and this is short, or whatever. But you also have your spot here for the straight gear, which I kind of already talked about. I went ahead and added some white paper to the bottom here so we could actually see what's going on. And basically, you're going to have a spot for your transceiver, like I kind of already mentioned before, your audio in, your headphone, which this is very useful, especially if I'm going to like an appointment, or maybe I'm in a car with somebody and they don't want to hear all the dits and the dots. I can plug in my headphones, and that seems to work pretty well. And finally, you have this little switch here, which is like a kill switch. And what it does is it prevents the battery from being drained from the Morserino. So if you shut this off like it is now, in theory, the battery shouldn't lose any kind of charge, if you will. If you have this plugged in, which is a USB device, you could plug in a battery, or you could plug in directly to a wall with a micro USB. It will turn the device on automatically. When you power on this device, here's your speaker, of course, but when you power on this device, and I'm going to do it now, I have battery power on, you're going to get a little thing here that says, loading successful, and then it shows all the information. It shows something like 4.6 volts, so I know that this thing is nearly fully charged. Let's see if I can zoom in here to the screen. Okay, so I really quickly wanted to just turn this back on and show you a couple things. First, you're going to see your firmware here, version 3.02, and then you're going to see your voltage. So this is almost a fully charged battery. But that firmware version, you could actually go on GitHub on the Morserino 32 repository, and you can see if you have the updated firmware, the latest firmware rather. If you don't, as I understand, you could update that via Wi-Fi, and I have not worried about that or done that yet. But here's what happens. You're going to be in this select mode, and I'm in a CW generator mode, which I don't want to be in. I'm not there yet. But what I'm doing to learn Morserino, and there are actually a couple options. I'll show you here. If I hold down this button, I'm going to go one menu item up, and now I can select the mode. I could do Echo Trainer. I could do the Koch Trainer. I could do the transceiver mode, the CW decoder mode. There's a lot of options in here that I really haven't discovered yet because I'm still learning this. But what I've been doing is I go into the Koch method or the Coke method trainer, and I hit the button to enter down into the next menu. Now I have some options in here. I could select a lesson, and really you always need to select a lesson first. And if you're just learning CW like I am, you're going to want to hit learn new lesson. Or excuse me, see now I'm going to hit this button or hold it down to go back. I need to go to select lesson and then tap, and it's going to give me the options of what lesson I want to work on. As you're going to see, lesson 1 is the letter M, lesson 2 is the letter K. Now, I am going to show you lesson 1 here real quick, and then I'll show you lesson 3. We're going to skip K, and I'm going to show you why. I just kind of want to give you a couple of examples, but now I'm going to tap on that. And so now I've selected lesson 1. Now I'm going to scroll over to learn that new character, and I'm going to tap on this little enter button. And it says press the paddle when you're ready. So .M. So now I need to replicate that. M. That's how I do it. Long. I did want to mention that you could actually change the words a minute on here too. So for example, right now I'm at 6 words a minute. I'll go to 7 words a minute. You can go up to 60 words a minute, but the problem that I have is I'm able to key that quick sometimes. However, my brain can't process the letters that quick. So I start at 7, and then I'm going to try to work my way up to 10 and then 15 eventually. So here we are. M. And then we'll wait again. M. Once you feel that you're completely proficient with that, you can actually go hold this down to go back, select a new lesson. Now you would go lesson 2, and you'd learn K at that point. And then you can go to lesson 3 and you can learn R and do the same thing over and over again. Now I'm going to go to lesson 3. Well, I don't want to go to lesson 4 because I haven't really quite learned that yet, right? But I'm going to go back to you can see right now I just went one more menu up. So I'm back in the Koch trainer and then select lesson. And we're going to go to 3 and hit enter. And then we're going to go to learn that new character. So now I'm going to do this all over again. It's just going to be the letter R. Good. You got to try to mimic the speed. Good. 7 words a minute. But what happens if I get it wrong? Oh, it'll tell me error. Once you feel confident with that, then you're going to go back again, and you could go to the CW generator and just have it keep playing that CW generation so you could hear it, constantly hear it, and tell yourself, that's R, that's R. And then you can go to the Echo Trainer. Now, this is where Echo Trainer becomes really cool because there's a couple options, and I don't know if you could tell, but it says random right now. You could also do something like English words, but there's not too many English words with M, K, and R, and that's all. So we're going to go to random here, and we're going to hit enter, and it's going to give us 3 letters that we need to figure out what they are. So sometimes I'll write this down too. So we're going to start this. It's going to give you the V, 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 V. Okay, so I missed that one. I'm going to write it again. They give me an error. So it looks like M, K, M. So I'm going to repeat that. And it's going to tell me I'm good. Dun, dun, dun. So I didn't catch that one, right? So I'm going to try to listen again and not write it down. So I think that was KRK. And it says that I missed something because I didn't give it enough space in. So it'll play it again. KRK. Look, I can almost have a contact with K6ARK. So I think that was R, K, K. And it said I was wrong. So it was actually maybe K, KRR. Okay. So it was KRR. But I'm not giving enough time in between the letters, so it's not correct. And it'll keep giving that to me until I get it right. That was wrong because it was KRR. And if I'm not actually getting it like now, this is when I'll write it down so I can really see it. And I'm listening again and I'll listen again. Okay, so it was RMK. And basically, you're going to want to keep doing that. I'm going to shut this off here for a minute. You're going to want to keep doing that until you become proficient with lesson 3, and then you're going to go on to 4. And every lesson you go and add on, you do random characters, you could do English words. There's a dictionary in there. You'll be able to then eventually put together Morse code and become proficient with it. But I would recommend that you actually are consistently okay with that lesson before you move on to the next lesson. Real quick, I just wanted to say, so I would go lesson to lesson to lesson, and that's my plan. I'm going to do a lesson a day. I'll explain why in just a few moments. However, if you wanted to change any settings or preferences, like for example, if you didn't like this being da or this being dit, you can double click here when you're in a menu and it'll go into preferences. And in preferences, you could change things like the pitch of the tone of your CW being generated or the CW you're sending. You could change the paddle polarity. So this is dit and this is da. But if you tap this button here, you could change it to da and dit and so forth. Now I'm going to leave it at dit and da. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this button to save it. And then I can go on to my next option. There's latency of the dit and the da, or the dit rather. And there's things like keyer mode, Curtis B. And if you click here, you can go to different keyer modes as well. Now, I am going to just bring this over. And I wanted to kind of show you like you could actually change the tone shift. So let's go up full tone, down half tone, or up. You could do no shift tone. So you'll have the same tone as being generated. Let me show you what that sounds like. So I just changed that, and I'm going to hold this down to get out of here. And then let's select the lesson again, and we're on 3R. And then we're going to go to echo, and let's see if you could hear this. Random. Oops. Da, da, da. It's RRR. But the tone was exactly the same, being sending and receiving. But anyway, yeah, and then if you wanted to, you can get out of there again by holding this down, and now you're back in your menu option. You could double click to go back into preferences and change that if you didn't like it. And there's quite a few other things you can change. Now, one of the things that I really like too is the echo repeats. I have it set now to forever, but I could set it to 3 repeats. So if I don't get the right echo in 3 repeats, it's going to go on to a different sequence. But I am going to keep that at forever because I want to work on it until I get it right. Let's wrap this up. As I mentioned, I'm learning 1 character a day until I have CW down in a proficient manner. And that includes not just listening to it and understanding it, but also repeating it back. With that being said, I will say that I need to get my keyer on here immediately because these are not great. Look, it fell off again. But these aren't great. And this feels like it's hindering my ability to quickly learn. I just don't feel like I'm able to tap these as well. You know, with my keyer, I could adjust the spring for the sensitivity and so forth. But that is just kind of one thing I noticed about this. Now, the reason that I am trying to learn 1 character a day, and I'm giving myself no time limit. So if it takes me 1 hour to learn that character, great. If it takes me 23 hours, great. I'm going to learn that character every day. And it's part of this challenge that I'm doing, basically a challenge where for the next 3 months or several months, I'm doing one thing new mentally every day. And I'm trying to push myself basically to become not just a smarter guy, but I'm also physically trying to push myself and my abilities as well to become more confident of a person. And I think CW is a great method to learn it because it's like a foreign language. With this ability for me to try to learn 1 new character a day, I've learned some things that I'd like to share with you. And the first thing is to remove the distractions, which I've talked about in previous episodes. If I have background noise on, like a TV that's maybe playing the latest YouTube episode or something, that's very distracting. Cars in the background or the lawnmower that I hear right now are very distracting. Classical music, though, I found is actually pretty reassuring to my brain, and it really helps me learn the character. So remove the distractions or recognize what distractions actually help you learn. And I will say that it seems impossible to learn CW if you're looking at, I have 38 characters to go or whatever it is. So just take it 1 step at a time. Every day's a new day. Learn that 1 letter every day and have fun with it. So this was kind of my little walkthrough of a Morserino, or how at least I'm using the Morserino. How are you using the Morserino? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I'm Ham Radio Dude. Thanks for checking out the channel 73.